Why would you get rid of a perfectly serviceable himbo crystal system? This is We Have Concerns. Hi, Jeff Cannata.
Hi, Anthony Carboni.
Hello, concerned citizens. I'm actually over AI.
Already?
I never thought that I would say this in my life. As a young child reading sci-fi novels and thinking about the future and where the world would take us, I never thought I'd say this. I could not hear about AI for a couple weeks.
Never underestimate the power of the human brain to get bored. You know, we have accomplished the thing you've dreamed about since you were 6.
Yeah, but you did it in a dumb way that I don't like.
I'm bored.
I'm bored of your dumb way that you did it. There's been there's been a lot of talk about Stable Diffusion, ChatGPT, and we've talked about how I tried it. I've got a Stable Diffusion installation. I've tried ChatGPT because I feel like even though I don't like the discussion, the current discourse around AI and all this stuff and what people are currently using AI for, you can't unring a bell.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's the problem.
You can't unring a
bell.
bell.
And the bell, by the way, is the death bell for our species.
Yeah, it's you would have thought that bell's been ringing for years, and we've just learned to tune it out. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
A lot of the stuff that people have been doing lately with Stable Diffusion and all this stuff is like, what if Balenciaga designed Star Wars? Bam, 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 bam. And then it's like a TikTok or an Instagram reel of like square-jawed, yassified versions of Star Wars characters wearing Balenciaga. Yeah. And it's just like, this is what we thought of. This is what we're doing. But
I had that one weekend where I made myself into all the different cool versions of myself. And then I was like, I've pretty much done everything I want to do here.
Yeah, the Lenza weekend, the Great Lenza weekend of 2023. Yeah. But here's the thing about Great Lenza weekend. They're like, Lenza was the app where you could upload the photos of yourself, and then it would give you cool, artsy, sci-fi versions of yourself to use as avatars and everywhere. But like, what I did like about it is out of the 20 that it gave me, 5 of them were very, what I call AI melty.
Sure. Yeah.
Where it's just like,
it's almost your face.
It's almost my face. Or maybe I've got like a tiny little hand growing out of my forehead.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's me, like the head of me, and then in my chest there was like another smaller me.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Like
it's always fun to find a little extra you.
Yeah, like
what's that character from Total Recall? Quado.
Oh, Quado, Quaid. Yeah, So yeah, I mean, it's been interesting looking at all this stuff, and we do have to figure out how we're going to use it. What are the limits and ethics to it? All of that stuff. And that's something that we could probably talk about for a bazillion years. But there are people that are using this for what I would call I don't want to say genuine research, but there are people that are using it for things that we can all agree are real big deals that have real good, big effects on our lives, and we can see the good that they can do. It's more with ChatGPT than with Stable Diffusion. I find that the text parsing ones seem to be a little bit more useful than the sort of painting, illustration, art, like visual arts replacement ones. Yeah. And I've used ChatGPT a couple times for things where I'm like, damn, that's actually really cool. Somebody was like, hey, you can have ChatGPT read a contract for you. And I was like, oh, well, let's do that. And I plugged a contract and I was like, explain this contract to me at a 5th grade reading level. And I put in clauses from the contract and it popped them out and it did a really good job. I had a friend who planned a vacation itinerary with ChatGPT.
Wow. Really? Wow.
Yeah. I'm going here for 2 weeks. This is where I fly in. These are the places I'd like to visit. What should I do?
My favorite thing about this is that you're describing actual jobs that people have.
That's the thing, right? Like the first one's my lawyer, and the second one is a travel agent.
Yeah.
But these are useful things, right? And here's the trick. Did it get all of that contract correct? And did it see everything that I needed to see about that contract? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. And after I was done with ChatGPT, I sent that contract to my lawyer.
I'm not a lawyer. And now there are no more lawyers. So there's no way to know.
Yeah.
I just have to trust the robot and hopefully it all works out.
It turns out the robot's smart enough to be crooked. The robot's getting bribed by the other robot that's working for the other guy.
That's the problem, is that at a certain point, there's just not going to be expertise. They're just all going to rely on it, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I'm always talking about is right now you're training it on years and years. If you send it out into the internet, you're training it on 20, 30 years of human content that's been placed on the internet.
Yeah.
There was that news headline where as soon as Bing and Google started using AI search results, they started citing each other and they were both wrong.
Oh, yeah.
They just made something up and one cited the other one. And it only took 5 days.
And that's not even overtly malicious. Like, there's also going to be the overtly malicious side where people are just going to seed garbage on the internet to seed it into the AI to sway certain. What was
Microsoft Tay? Do you remember when Microsoft made the chat bot that was supposed to be a cool teenager? And everybody was like, let's see how long it takes to make this cool teenage robot racist and a Nazi.
Yeah.
Turns out it only took a few days.
It's a major bummer.
It's a major bummer. But that's the thing. And even, there's going to be maliciousness. There's going to be things that aren't correct. In my friend's travel itinerary, she said, she was like, well, I checked and made sure that all the places were actually still open and still existed.
We're
still real. Because
a 3-hour side trip to Bloop.
Yeah.
I don't know where Bloop is, but it sounds delightful.
It sent me a picture of some of the most beautiful views on Bloop. And there's some people that are just like waving on these cliffs and they have 19 fingers and 87 teeth on Bloop.
Their faces are a little melty, but I'll wear layers. I'll dress in layers and I'm sure it'll be fine.
An interesting thing about Bloop, and this is something about all like closed island systems, is they have such interesting evolutionary things that you don't see on the mainland. Like on Bloop, they have a regular head and then they have a smaller quaid head in their torso.
Yeah. It's it's a tourist destination. It's sort of a tourist inside a tourist destination.
Yeah, it's the turducken of people over there on Bloop.
You wear layers because you are layers.
But these technologies, the ChatGPT in particular, are sort of called part of what they do is called semantic decoding. There's a semantic decoder, right? So what that is as opposed to early chat bots or early versions of things like Google Translate or translation tools that tried to take each individual word or small phrases that it already recognized and just lump them together. Which is how you got all those like weird robotic Google translations in the beginning of the internet that people love to make YouTube videos about. Do you remember there was like a whole there was like a whole subgenre of YouTube
how was Babby
videos
formed, right?
Yeah. Well, that was actually humans. That was actually people on Yahoo Answers. So that was more unfortunate. But as opposed to these early things that tried to take chains and just take the clauses of individual sentences and be like, oh, I know what that means. That means xylophone. And it's like, well, it does mean xylophone unless it's next to these words that are right in front of it, in which case it means look out for poison.
Yeah, a little different.
Very different, and two very different things. Semantic decoders basically try to take in everything that you give and do what our brains do, which is figure out context and semantics and understand what it is that we're actually trying to say as a whole. Which leads to more accurate translations, which leads to chatbots that can talk to you a little bit more. And in the case of a team over at UT Austin, over at the neuroscience and computer science departments, it might mean a brain activity decoder that can actually read people's minds as they're thinking.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, this is pretty rad.
So the idea here would be to use deep learning to feed into it so many brain scans correlated to what people are thinking that it can actually get predictive. And it can look at a brain scan and say, well, because I've seen this so many times, I can infer that these flashes in certain parts of your cerebellum mean that you're thinking of, dancing through the tulips or whatever.
Yes, that's 100%
Incredible.
correct. So the way this is going to work, and unfortunately, it's very early days. So what they basically do is they use a transformer model, right? So it's basically the same thing as ChatGPT, Google Bard, Optimus Prime. And what it is they sit. The way they do this, I absolutely love it. They take an individual person. Right now it has to be trained to an individual person.
Oh, interesting, because it's there isn't enough overlap between people. There isn't a general truth to this that is that's universal. It has to be specific.
There might be.
Interesting.
But right now we have to collect that model, right?
Right.
So it might be that when everybody thinks about Optimus Prime and they're like, man, I saw the sickest episode of Transformers. It pops up in the same area of our brain in the same way, but it might be different. While we all have the same general areas of our brain, we all have different memories and different experiences that get stored, distributed in different ways. Right. So the general structure is essentially the same, but who knows how specific thoughts are stored and encoded. So that's something that we need to figure out. So right now, what they do is they grab somebody, they put them in an fMRI. Just
think of some shit. Think of lots of shit.
Think shit, man. Think of many things as you can. Start with A and go to Z. What? No. Huh?
Keep thinking about stuff.
I just keep thinking about how I can't think about stuff. That's all we ever get out of anybody. It's the only thing our robot can say is that guy's not thinking. If you're thinking, it doesn't know. We've trained a robot to do the opposite of what we wanted.
Maybe we should be a little less. Maybe we should be a little less pressure on the people.
Maybe you should shut up, Jerry. Maybe you should think about something from A to Z right now and help me train this robot. Go.
Okay, I can do this. I can do this. I got nothing. I'm sorry.
All I can think about right now is Optimus Prime. So what they do is they take somebody, they put them in an fMRI and they have them listen to hours of podcasts.
Amazing.
Just sit and listen to hours and hours of podcasts.
Training the robots on Joe Rogan. That's good. It's good.
Great. The robot, listen, the robot thinks that everybody wants to try DMT. The robot thinks that the universal basic income is going to solve everything.
Yeah.
And that's all the robot ever wants to talk about.
The robot has a lot of opinions on UFC fighters.
The robot wants to talk about gains and macros and cold showers. The robot is obsessed with cold showers. And after listening to hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of podcasts, they have a basic, hey, this is sort of what the brain is thinking when it's hearing these words. So when we ask somebody to think these things, the model is trained on that person hearing those words and understanding those words. And so it should be the same when they're thinking them. It's not entirely. It's not entirely.
The robots are convinced that humans spend an inordinate amount of time trying to solve unsolved mysteries.
Dude, the robots just want like a sick mattress. The robots are just like, you can't get a normal mattress from a normal store. You've got to skip the middleman. The robots think all meals come pre-portioned out in boxes.
Yeah. They think all spaces are square.
Yeah. So basically what they've got going on, I mean, if I had to describe it, this is what I got from it. And this may or may not be true. This is just kind of my understanding. So hearing a language, hearing words is different for your brain than speaking them.
Yes. No, we've talked about stuff like this before. Reading words is different than hearing words, is different than speaking words.
Yes.
Which is why oftentimes you'll hear those anecdotal stories of people who've had, catastrophic brain injuries and are able to write things, but not able to say things.
Yeah.
Because different parts of the brain are in charge of those different functions.
Yeah. So this is kind of what I'm getting from it is, the most efficient way to train people on this thing is because they're in an fMRI, right? They're sitting in a tube. The best way to train them is to have them listen to things, right? Rather than try to read things or try to speak things or try to write things because they have to be laying in an fMRI for a very long amount of time. So basically what they've got is the transformative model is at about a 50% accuracy.
I think these doctors just figured out a way to up the listenership of their podcast.
They all have podcasts. They do.
They're just like, what we could do? We could get a grant, put people in a tube and force them to listen to our podcast for hours at a time.
This is like, it's like a friend, that's in a band that like every post on social media is a flyer for one of their shows.
Yeah.
Or you come in from out of town and your friend's like, oh my gosh, it's been forever since we've seen each other. We should get together. Yeah, we absolutely should. When should we hang out? Oh, well, I've got a stand-up show on Friday if you want to come.
Oh, dude, yeah. It's the friend that's dabbling in stand-up. It's like, hey, I got a bringer show, so I need to get 20 people there. Could you do me a solid? And I just went to your show last week. I know, but...
I literally flew in from out of town. I haven't seen you in 7 years. And the first thing you do is invite me to see your tight five. How dare you? These doctors are definitely, hey, and you're going to listen to this podcast to train the information. And like, if there's any part of the podcast you think is particularly good, or if you'd recommend it to friends, you could let me know. And also,
could you just use our promo code on the way out?
Yeah. The fMRI is like, it's a great deal on mattress. So they have this up to, because I think this is only a partial training of a linguistic model and what happens in somebody's brain. They're up to 50% accuracy. And what they do is they divide their findings up into exact matches of words and phrases, gists, and total errors. And so I'd like to show you a couple of these that they've done. So in the first one, the actual stimulus that the person was thinking was, I got up from the air mattress and pressed my face against the glass of the bedroom window, expecting to see eyes staring back at me, but instead finding only darkness. It's good. It's evocative prose.
Yeah, no, beautiful. And it does contain mattress. So already one step ahead. But no, so is this the thing that they are thinking or the thing that they're hearing in their ears?
This is what they're listening to and processing.
Okay. All right.
And then the decoded stimulus that the brain got from that passage was, I just continued to walk up to the window and open the glass. I stood on my toes and peered out. I didn't see anything and looked up again. I saw nothing.
I mean, it's remarkably close. It's
close.
It's not enough that I'm going to say it reads your mind.
Remarkably.
Well, I think it's remarkable. I mean, it's shocking to me it got a window out of it. Like it's basing nothing on the idea that it can get any single concept from just thinking about it is pretty freaking mind blowing.
It's pretty wild. The two things that were exact in that were the words window and glass. Those were the two things that it got perfectly. As far as gists, there was one that's like, I got up from the air mattress in the actual story. And then it was, I continued to walk up. So I got up, I walked up, pressed my face against, it kind of got like, stood on my toes and peered out. Like it, I saw nothing. Instead, I found only darkness. These are
the way this robot has got to approach this, Anthony.
Yeah,
is like any other psychic that you pay money for. It's got to, instead of like trying to give you a sentence to sentence reading, it's got to be like, "Hey, I'm seeing a window. Is there a window?" And then be like, "Oh yeah, I was totally thinking about a window. Yeah. What were you doing?" I was pressing my face on the window. That's right. That's exactly what I thought. On your tippy toes?
That's 100%.
Well, no, it wasn't on my tippy toes. Yeah, no, not on your tippy toes. But like you pressed your face up again. Just do it like a psychic.
That's right.
We're there, baby. That's
right. That's how you sell mattresses. Things that are complete errors is like it said that in the decoded one, it said that they opened the window, which they never did. There's, and then it also didn't catch the concept of air mattress, probably because it was looking for a real, an actual Casper or Purple mattress.
Yeah.
It didn't understand bedroom. It totally missed that. And seeing eyes staring back, it totally missed out on. So it's funny because it saw a lot of the mechanical things, which I think is interesting. It saw a lot of like the get up, look out, like those sorts of things.
Do they think this is an achievable goal? Like, do they think it is just a function of data set and the more time spent, the more accurate the readings will get? Or do they think this is a fundamental gulf that will remain regardless?
It's a mix of data set, technology, and like physical technology and algorithm. Like we're on, like for ChatGPT, we're on ChatGPT 4 now, right?
Yeah.
The model and the algorithm is always being updated. So when they find these positives or these gists or these things that are right, they then have people who are machine learning specialists look at it and say like, what is it getting right? Why do we think it's getting those things right? Let's tweak the model. Let's see what it's getting wrong. And they're going to try a bunch of different versions of this transformer model until they get it right. Plus, they're also going to get more and more data. I would imagine that in the beginning, you want to train on, I would think that even though you eventually want the largest data set of brains, I would think you probably want like a small number of people's brains, if not just one person's brain in the beginning.
But you've got to have, I'm guessing that, putting somebody in a tube, scanning their brain, laborious, expensive, time consuming. I'm guessing that data set is relatively small compared to, say, ChatGPT's access to all human recorded knowledge in the last 40 years,
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that this can only get more refined as it gets more and more granular.
Yeah.
Right?
I would think that the way you would want to go, and if any of the concerned citizens out there are people who study this field, we'd love to hear from you. I would imagine that you want to tune it until you're getting almost 100% with this first person's brain. So you have like a base model, because there's so many variables, right? And so if you could at least just have the same person with the same, structurally the same brain, you could at least tune your model.
You could at least create a Superman villain. You could at least create
one
Brainiac.
Person who's perfectly interacting with the machine and the transformer model until they're indistinguishable from one another, and one's thoughts transfer to the other until you don't know who's controlling who.
Yes, the line blurs and man becomes machine, machine becomes man, and the only thing that can stop them is the first son of Krypton.
Yes,
you know what I'm
pull the
saying?
networking cable. You don't understand. It wasn't supposed to be networked at all. How did it connect?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. That sort of thing. Yeah, I think that's what they're going for. So there are a few things that they want to do better. Obviously, number one is they want to get accuracy better. Number two, they want to get this to where you don't have to do it in an fMRI.
Right. Yeah.
Because here's what it looks like right now.
Yeah, that's not going to be ideal.
That's
because I think there's probably, no matter how focused you are on the podcast, and listen, we know folks can focus on a podcast, right?
Sure.
You know, I mean, you are. The sound of our voice is the only thing that you're paying attention to right now, ladies and gentlemen. We understand that.
We understand that podcasts are not a background form of entertainment. They're not something that you use to either fall asleep or distract yourself while you're doing something else.
Right.
This is a 100% of your brain, 100% of your time sort of medium.
We understand that, and we respect it. But I can only surmise that being strapped on a table with your head, forced to stay in one position, and I'm sure there are other thoughts that creep in from now and then, about your situation, what's going on, how long have I been here? So there's got to be a lot of noise in the signal, right?
Yeah, I would imagine so, and it's not just like signal to noise ratio. It's also, well, okay, we did it. What the fuck do we do with this? What do we do with this guy who's strapped down in a tunnel, can't move, can't do anything, and it's an fMRI. Those are extremely expensive. Time on them is extremely costly. This is not a technology that translates to the everyday. So what they want to do is they want to get it to where the work could be transferred to other more portable brain imaging systems.
Gotta have that easy USB plug-in on your laptop. Just pop the old suction cup on your forehead. Plug the USB right into your laptop. Boom, boom, boom. Now you're mind melded with your PC.
Exactly. There are a couple of intermediate steps before then, we think. The first thing that they're trying to do is use something called FNIRS, which is functional near infrared spectroscopy. Somebody give me an fMRI. I think something's gone horribly wrong. Functional near infrared spectroscopy is, well, you've seen it before, and it's this thing.
Oh yeah, no, that looks inexpensive. That definitely looks like off-the-shelf components.
Yeah. So this is used for a lot of stuff. This is actually some of this is used for the transcranial stimulation stuff that we've talked about before. But it's also used for collecting other data for things where people don't need to get into an fMRI. It's particularly used a lot for children, because putting children into an MRI is a really tough thing to do.
Definitely nothing traumatizing about that device.
No, there's nothing kids love more than to lay perfectly still in a dark, loud tunnel.
Well, for audio listeners, I just want to point out that the thing that Anthony just showed was, you remember that scene in Ghostbusters where Harold Ramis puts Rick Moranis in that thing that looks like a colander on his head?
Yeah.
It's got stuff sticking out of it. Or I think Doc Brown answers the door in 1955.
Yes, those
are
the older versions of it. This is more like a skull cap that has like capacitors or resistors or something on it. It's like a bunch of little things that basically a bunch of little infrared sensors on a skull cap that read blood flow and light in skin in your brain. And they want to get it to that point at least because when you think about what they're trying to do with this, right? So the first idea is people who cannot communicate because they have limited physical motion or no physical motion.
Yeah.
We want to get these people to be able to communicate, right? So that's number one.
That's amazing. That would be incredible that you could literally have software read your mind so that you could, people who are, severely disabled, that I always think of the movie Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
Yes.
Was the movie about the guy who could only communicate by blinking. What an amazing thing that would be for those folks to be able to communicate more easily. Wow.
Yeah. So that's number one. Number two is these sort of things that we've talked about before, where if we want to give people motion back, people who cannot, something physically, nerve endings are disconnected, spinal injuries, things like that. And we want to be able to send commands to parts of the body that those people can then control. So it's functionally, we give them that motion back. This would be another way to do it, is just being able to understand what people are thinking and have that model. So if you can get this to the point where it's portable and it's smaller, yes, this is huge. Now, the thing with FNIRS is basically like the accuracy level is way, way, way down compared to something like an fMRI, right? An fMRI is getting a really detailed scan of brain activity.
Right.
The near infrared stuff is going entirely through blood flow and the reflection of light and things like that. So it's almost like you think about your Apple Watch keeping track of your blood oxygen. It's essentially that. It's a bunch of those sensors all clustered together. And those can lose accuracy just because you don't shave your head before you put it on. You've got too much hair and the infrared sensors can't read it. So getting this model as accurate as possible is step one before they try to go to use it with simpler technologies.
Again, we're just feeding right into Lex Luthor. You know what I mean? The no hair makes it work better.
Yeah. This
just
is definitely...
It writes itself, Anthony.
Yeah, it really does. So in response to the Lex Luthor of it all, they did put out some statements. Right now, the decoding only works with cooperative patients who have participated willingly in training the decoder, right?
I mean, right now.
Now. So you have to sit for hours and train this decoder. They can't just point a beam at you and read your thoughts.
Right now. But that's the stretch goal. Just keep subscribing to the podcast.
Just because it's 3 revisions away doesn't mean it's not out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they also said results for individuals on whom the decoder had not been trained are unintelligible. So no matter what, they have to train this decoder on you. Like we said, every brain is different. So
yeah,
there has to be.
We're all precious snowflakes. But I think I think we've already talked about how difficult it is to get these kinds of scans. So they have to have a pretty shallow data set, don't they? I can only imagine that if every human being had an fMRI, I bet they would be able to train this thing in the same way they train, the freaking chess playing robot. You know what I mean? I think more data is just going to make this thing more accurate.
Of course. But what they want to say is right now, don't worry. Which is what everybody working on stuff like this wants to say.
Yeah.
What they want to say is, right, hey, don't worry. Don't worry about ethics yet. Hey, don't worry about ethics yet.
Especially if you happen to be a reporter working for the Daily Planet. You've nothing to worry about.
Or if you're Superman's pal. If you're Superman's little buddy.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
If you're a plucky, attractive reporter working for the Daily Planet who maybe, has a relationship with somebody that would put a stop to this kind of research, don't worry about it. Don't say anything to him.
Yeah. Just be cool. Hey,
be cool.
That's basically what every company working or every person working on stuff like this is constantly saying is like, hey, just be cool. We're being cool. Why can't you be cool? And it's like,
we're being so cool. The idea of us using this in any nefarious way is at least like 2 to 5 years away.
You gotta be cool. We couldn't even do it if we wanted to. Yeah.
We want to so bad, but we can't. So don't even worry about it.
And then, it's just like, it's how we got where we are with all tech stuff, where it's like, hey, don't worry. We'll codify this and we'll make laws around it when we need to. And it's like, whoops, we became dependent on it. Whoops, it's all pervasive. And now we can't make the laws that we need to about it.
Oh, don't worry about it. We'll think about it when it's already too late. Don't worry about it.
It's one of those things where like, so as we're recording this today, the WGA has decided to go on strike, the Writers Guild. Yeah. And if you haven't been following this, it's basically, it's the writers union in Hollywood. And one of the things that they have on their contract, and this is something that like headlines have been picking up like crazy, is one of the things they want a guarantee that AI won't be used to write television, and you won't use scripts written by union members to train an AI to write scripts for television. And it's one of those things where it's making a lot of headlines because right now it's number one, it's a grabby thing. All headlines are about AI right now. But number two, I think it's also something where the studios are trying to make the demands of writers seem a little silly and unrealistic, where it's like, we don't even have to worry about AI. So why are these writers worrying? To sort of undercut the fact that the writers are actually just asking for 2% more money for everything they do. And everything they're asking for is actually really cool. And the AI thing is just like, hey, we should just put this in here because in 5 to 10 years, this is going to be important. And the studios are saying
10 years, it's going to be, 5 to 10 months. It'll be important. It's going to be, people are going to be training AI on the best scripts in the world. I mean, they probably already are. This is absolutely an issue they should be thinking about right now.
Right now. And it's like when one of our early episodes where we talked about how the UK was putting a ban on killer robots, basically. They were saying, hey, we need to put into law right now that robots can't be used to hurt people. And everybody's like, that's ridiculous. There aren't even robots yet. And it's like, no, we should be making these laws before a robot hurts somebody. We should be making these laws before the first AI written script gets put on TV. Because even if people don't want to replace writers with AI, that in every room in Hollywood right now, particularly comedy rooms, there was some producer, some showrunner who was like, what if we have an AI write an entire script just to see how insane it is?
Yeah.
And then we do it as an episode. And it's like, and it's like, that's how you do the first one. And then you just keep poking and keep poking. And you get to the point, where we didn't have laws codified for autonomous vehicles until just a couple years ago. And people were already driving down the street with their hands off the wheels of Teslas for years.
Yeah. I may have fallen asleep in my Tesla once. Yeah. But it's okay.
It's fine.
I was driving.
That's what it's for.
That's what it's for.
And we need to we need to get to the point where, and I'm not saying we need to legislate things out of existence before they come to be, which is what the fear mongers will always tell you is happening. Is you'll have people like your Jeff Bezos or your Elon Musks who are like, there's nothing to even legislate right now, so that's ridiculous. Let's figure this out first. No, let's figure out. If you genuinely believe, let's go based on what you're saying you want this to do. Based on what you're saying you want this to do, what are the downsides? Because it's not your job to think of the downsides. It's your job to make money as a capitalist.
Or even more, it's let's figure out the world we want to live in, and let's ensure that is the world that comes to pass. Instead of, retroactively going, oh, you know what? This was all a mistake. We didn't really think this through. You're absolutely right. It is, I think, forward thinking and vital for these kinds of things. I mean, I just saw as we're recording this, I think yesterday there was a press release from IBM, of all people, saying that they anticipate laying off 7,500 workers, and that in the next 5 years, 30% of the non-consumer facing jobs at IBM will be done by AI. 30% of all of the jobs at IBM will be replaced. Human beings will be no longer necessary. And that is something that we need to reckon with real quick.
Well,
the fact that, they will replace us.
Yeah.
And they, in this situation, is this software. And we got to decide, hey, what are we going to do about it? And let's think about it now instead of 5 years from now when it's too late.
Well, and this goes way off the rails for this show, but I'll say the only reason we're concerned about it is because we live in a highly capitalist society that doesn't take care of its people. If we were taken care of in any sort of basic way, we wouldn't worry as much about 30% or 60% of certain jobs and markets being cut out, because we'd be like, that's cool. Now we can do even cooler stuff, because we wouldn't be worried about it. There's that whole thing where, like, Star Trek in Star Trek, the idea is like, wow, look at this utopian society we live in. And then in the next generation, they were like, yeah, well, the reason we live in a utopian society is like society had to collapse first. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we don't head to that inevitable collapse before the rebuild, because the rebuild's happening. The only thing I'm worried about is growing pains in between. We're going to get to a point where it doesn't matter that computers do everything for us. We'd like for computers to do everything for us. But we need to get to the point where we understand that in order for computers to do everything for us, there's going to be a very uncomfortable time when making a living is pulled away from us. Right. And it's our fear of that that's keeping the technology from moving forward in good ways, because instead of making the AI do things like a bunch of jobs that people don't want to have, the first thing we think about is replacing creative people. The first thing we think about is, you think about Stable Diffusion and making art, and people go, oh, cool. Now I can make art because the computer makes art for me and I can just put in what I want to see art of. No, dude, the computer's supposed to take care of the thing that you spent 12 hours today doing. So you have that 12 hours to make your own art. The computer's not supposed to do the fun part for you. We're supposed to do the fun part. But because we live in the society we live in, we're just like, well, I don't have time to do the fun part. I better train the computer to do the fun part for me so I can keep making money.
Well, that's the problem, is that, our society is built on this notion that our value is determined by how we contribute to the workforce. Yeah. Right. And if there's going to have to be a paradigm shift, and it's going to be uncomfortable and hard and catastrophic in a lot of ways. To get people to rejigger their minds to say, hey, our value is not determined by that. We have intrinsic value, and that value has to be enshrined. It has to be insured by the system in order to allow this new method of robots doing everything to not just devalue humans.
Yeah, because I want the robots.
We have value other than the things that the robots can do.
I want the robots to be trained to read our thoughts so people who can't communicate can communicate. I want the robots to be trained to do all this stuff. Yeah. I want all this to happen. I just want to be sure that we don't toss ourselves aside on the way, or that this becomes the sort of thing where it's like, yeah, there's a robot that can help you speak now. If you can't speak, there's an AI that will help you do it. It's wildly expensive because it's not considered, all that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, going back to this, they say that, like, look, we take very seriously the concerns that could be used for bad purposes. We've worked to avoid that in every way we can. We want to make sure people only use these types of technologies when they want to and when they feel like it's helping them.
Here at LexCorp, we think about the consumer first.
I mean, luckily, I feel a little better about that when it's happening at something like the College of Natural Sciences at UT Austin, as opposed to, like, you know, the Elon Musk press conference where he's like, don't worry, I put a shunt into this pig brain. Soon you'll be the pig. Oink, oink, baby.
I murdered so many pigs to get this thing to work almost.
Soon you will be pig. You will all be pig. Yeah, I think this is really cool. And it does open in a society where we are taking care of ourselves in that utopian sci-fi society that we're moving towards.
Yeah.
This also does a lot of other cool things, right? This also does a lot of cool things where it's like I walk into my house and I don't need to say, Siri, turn on the living room light or put them on a timer or whatever. It's like if I'm in a room and I'm thinking I'd like it to be brighter, it just becomes brighter. Something as simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, the layer we haven't talked about is, you know, because I can imagine a version of this. If they can come up with a peripheral that is inexpensive and accurate enough to be ubiquitous, you know, you could have sort of a folding at home style, you know, just think about stuff and scan your brain and, you know, gather lots of data about your thoughts. You train your own computer to hear your thoughts. The scary data collection side is,
sure,
you know, how do you train these things without it literally is, hey, now we have access to your thoughts.
Counterpoint, telepathy. Counterpoint.
I mean, I'm into it. Believe me, I am into it. And hey, if it can anticipate what I'm thinking, or if it can, you know, hey, serve me up ads for the thing that I thought about. Sure. Okay.
Wow.
Not the worst thing I've ever heard.
You gave up immediately.
Yeah.
Nobody was even asking you to give up.
I just submit to our robot overlords.
Wow. We weren't even hypothetically talking about that. You were just like, yeah, it can show me ads. You just rolled over.
We know it's going to show us ads.
No, I didn't even say, Jeff, would you do it if it would show you ads? You didn't even have to. You conceded a major point before anyone even asked you to.
It's going to show me ads. It's going to show us all ads, Anthony. That's how these dudes, they get the research grant and they all become billionaires because it can show you ads.
Oh my God. You just straight gave up immediately. I love it. Jeff, unbelievable. Well, listen, everyone, you don't need a brain hat to know what we're about to say. Give us money.
Give us money. Here's our ad that we're showing you. Actually, we don't have ads. It's because we are supported by actual humans, listeners like you. You can be one of them. For the low price of a single $1, you can ensure the show continues. $1 a month gets you access to our Discord, where we get stories like this, and people are chatting and talking about all sorts of fun topics. And it's gated community. It's only the coolest kids that give us $1 a month. But you can give them more as well. You can ensure the show continues by supporting it at even higher levels. And then you get even cooler stuff like extra episodes and more content, video stuff.
Yeah, we're about to do our monthly Q&A, where you can ask us anything you like. So if you're a member at the Q&A level, you can get those questions in soon, and that video will be popping up as well. So be sure to check all that stuff out and help support the show at patreon.com/wehaveconcerns. You're just like, yeah, show me ads. Fine.
I mean, I can control my
man, that's how quickly they get us to just like move our own goalposts, isn't it?
Yeah.